Justice League: The New Frontier movie review. So this is a comic book movie. I was watching it the other night just to kill time. It's based off of a graphic novel of the same name, which I've not read. According to Wikipedia, the purpose of the graphic novel is to bridge the gap between the golden age of comic books and the silver age of comic books. So, I guess we're straight into geek territory right away here, huh? If you're a geek, you probably know that there was a golden age of comic books, comic book superheroes, with Superman, Wonder Woman, Batman, The Flash, Green Lantern, Green Arrow, and then superheroes went out of style in the 1950s, and then they brought superheroes back in the 1960s, but then when they brought them back slightly differently. Like, Green Lantern was a different character and he had a different backstory. And so that difference between the Golden Age Green Lantern and the Silver Age Green Lantern, Silver Age referring to the 1960s Green Lantern, Golden Age, the 1940s Green Lantern, and similar characters like the Flash. So those differences between the Golden Age and the Silver Age have been the source of so many reboots and retroactive continuity and resetting the universe in the DC comics. So yeah, it's a kind of thing geeks love to discuss. This story seems to offer a new interpretation of what happened in between the Golden Age and the rebirth of the heroes in the Silver Age. Now, the story is set in the actual 1950s, but it doesn't seem to take place in DC's current rebooted timeline. At the same time, in this story, both the Golden Age superheroes and the Silver Age superheroes are on the same Earth. In the old school DC comics, they explain this by saying that they were on separate universes in the multiverse. So here they are in the same universe, in the same Earth, but they're not in the current DC timeline. So I don't know, this is neither pre-crisis nor post-crisis. I guess this is just yet a new retelling of the story. So I don't know how you're supposed to approach it. I mean, the only people who would be interested in this are serious geeks to begin with. I mean, they're the only people who are interested in the difference between Golden Age and Silver Age DC Comics. But at the same time, the movie is asking the viewer to just forget about everything they know and enjoy a new reinterpretation of it. Seems to be what they're going for, at least. So, we've got many of the classic DC comic book superheroes here. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Hal Jordan as Green Lantern, Barry Allen as the Flash, and Martian Manhunter. So it's kind of like the old classic Justice League back together again. Being a child of the 80s, I grew up watching Super Friends when I was really young. So this is reuniting the classic Justice League, not reuniting, but putting on film again the classic Justice Super League. Sorry, I'm losing my ability to talk coherently. It's putting the classic Justice League back on film, which would have been super cool if this film had come out, 10, 20 years earlier. As it is, though, we've already been through a number of animated reincarnations of the Justice League. I mean, there was that Justice League TV show, followed by Justice League Unlimited. So if this film had come out in the 90s, I would have been so overcome with nostalgia about just seeing the Justice League animated again. But in this day and age, I'm expecting more. So the film's going to have to do more to win me over. And I'm not sure it does that. I mean, there's nothing horribly wrong with this story, nothing horribly wrong with this film, but there's nothing really great about it either. It's just essentially another Justice League story. This is like a 75-minute version of the Justice League TV show. Of course, the premise of passing the torch from the Golden Age to the Silver Age is very promising. If only the Golden Age characters had been utilized. In fact, they are only alluded to. At one point, Superman says, "Now the Justice Society of America has been forced into retirement and our man is dead." And that one line is about all the referencing they get. They don't appear on screen. How did our man die? Why is the Justice League, why is the Justice Society in retirement? These questions are never answered. Oh, by the way, I should explain some of this geek stuff. Justice Society of America is the 1940s version of the Justice League of America. So again, it's another Golden Age versus Silver Age thing. So yeah, I'm not sure if the original graphic novel went into more detail. I've not read it. But the film should stand on its own, and it doesn't really give a full story here. It is heavily implied that all of this was the result of McCarthyism, which I suppose is somewhat fitting because in the real world it was McCarthyism which dealt a mortal blow to the comic book industry. Well, not a mortal blow, right? Because it didn't die off completely, but almost killed off the comic book industry. Not McCarthy directly, but his offshoot, Frederick Wertham, and the Senate subcommittee hearings on comic books. And that did play a part in the transition between the Golden Age to the Silver Age. But other than name-dropping McCarthy once or twice, it doesn't really get explored. It's only just vaguely alluded to. I went over to Amazon.com to read other reviews of people who had seen this movie, and it seems like a main complaint of this movie is that there wasn't enough screen time for Superman, Wonder Woman, and Batman, the big three. This seemed to pop up in several people's reviews. The Superman, Batman, and Wonder Woman get less screen time than Flash, Green Lantern, and Martian Manhunter. Personally, I don't mind, actually. I love Superman, I love Batman, I love Wonder Woman, but I'm also getting sick of them after so many years of reading comics. I'm quite happy to go with the lesser-known comic book characters. I've always kind of loved the obscure comic book characters anyways. This film focuses primarily on the Justice League. So, I guess I can't really say Green Lantern is obscure. But they do work in a number of lesser-known characters to throw a few bones to comic book geeks like me. So there's characters like Rick Flag, King Faraday, Ray Palmer, Ace Morgan from Challengers of the Unknown, which is one of the more obscure comic book properties. They all have roles. At the end of the movie, more comic book characters show up. They don't really have lines, but people like Green Arrow and the Blackhawks and Adam Strange show up out of nowhere at the end with no explanation. But I guess they're in this universe somewhere. Still, the fans know who they are. So even if they show up and they're not introduced formally, comic book fans can recognize them. The story is passable. It's nothing great, but it's nothing horrible. I'm not really sure it makes sense. I think you could nitpick the plot if you wanted to, but I'm just going to let it go. It's a cartoon. There is a shameless attempt near the end to try and add some unearned drama by making it appear that Superman has died. But really, who do they think they're fooling? I mean, at this stage, nobody seriously thinks that Superman is going to be really dead at the end of the movie. This is just one of those fake outs that we've seen a million times before in a million different other movies. In short, I really wouldn't recommend this movie unless you're a big comic book geek. If you are a big comic book geek, though, there are enough geek references in here to keep you happy. So I guess I Would recommend it to the geeks, wouldn't recommend it to other people.